The marketplace smelled like rain and something Daniel could not name. He walked between stalls selling fruits that glowed faintly in the afternoon light. Vendors called out prices in a dozen languages. Some he understood, most he did not. 3 months on Terra's 9 had taught him to navigate the chaos. The research station felt too quiet sometimes. He came here for the noise and color, for the reminder that life existed beyond lab walls and specimen jars. A Talrock merchant nodded as Daniel approached her stall. She had 4 arms and fur like polished copper. Her species looked like cats who learned to walk upright and never looked back. She sold dried meats from animals Daniel had only seen in textbooks. "Good afternoon," Daniel said. He pointed to a package wrapped in leaves. "How much for that one?" The merchant's pupils narrowed to slits. Her ears flattened against her skull. She took a step back, then another. The packages fell from her hands. Daniel froze. "Are you okay?" She hissed something in her language and ran. Just ran. Knocked over her own stall and vanished into the crowd. He stood there like an idiot. People stared. A few backed away, most just looked confused. This was the 3rd time this week. Daniel left the marketplace quickly. His hands shook as he walked. The path back to Haven Ridge Research Station wound through forest, real trees, not the fake ones from colony ships. Terra's 9 had actual nature. It was one reason he wanted to come here. Something moved in the undergrowth. Daniel stopped. A pack of creatures emerged from the shadows. They looked like wolves built from nightmares, 6 legs each, mouths that split into 3 parts. The locals called them wren dogs, predators that hunted in groups and could take down prey twice their size. Daniel's heart hammered. He had no weapon, no protection. The research station was still half a mile away. The lead wren dog locked eyes with him. It growled. The sound vibrated in Daniel's chest. Then it stopped. The growl died in its throat. The creature's ears went flat. It took a step backward. Then another. The whole pack retreated into the forest like Daniel had pulled a gun. He did not move for a full minute. When his legs finally worked again, he ran. Did not stop until he reached the station gates. Security Chief Brandon Hayes met him at the entrance. "You look like you saw a ghost." "Wren dogs," Daniel gasped. "A whole pack. They just left. They looked at me and ran away." Brandon's expression shifted. "That's the 4th incident this month. We need to talk to Raina." Dr. Raina Akoy worked in the genetics lab on the 3rd floor. She looked up from her microscope when they entered. Her dark eyes moved from Daniel to Brandon and back again. "Let me guess," she said. "Something else ran away from you." Daniel slumped into a chair. "A merchant and a pack of wren dogs, both terrified. I did not do anything. I just existed near them." Raina set down her tools. She had been Daniel's friend since university. They studied xenobiology together, dreamed of working on frontier worlds. Now she was trying to figure out why her best friend scared apex predators. "I want to run a full genetic scan," she said. "Something is happening to you, something we need to understand." Daniel nodded. He was tired of being frightened and frightening. "Do it." The scanning process took 3 hours. Daniel lay still while machines hummed around him. Lights swept across his body. Needles took blood samples. Sensors mapped every cell. Raina studied the results with Professor Garrett Webb. The old man had run Haven Ridge for 20 years. He knew more about xenobiology than anyone Daniel had met. "This is impossible," Webb whispered. He pointed to something on the screen. "Look at these markers." Raina leaned closer. Her face went pale. "Those should not exist in human DNA." "What is it?" Daniel asked. He sat up despite the sensors still attached to his chest. "Your genetic code is changing," Raina said slowly. "Active evolution right now while you are alive." Webb tapped the screen. "These markers here, I have seen similar patterns in apex predator species. The Talrock have them. The Virikar have them, species at the top of their food chains." "But I am human," Daniel said. "I grew up on Earth. I was normal my whole life." "Were you?" Webb asked. "Did animals ever act strangely around you?" Daniel thought back. Neighborhood dogs always avoided him. Cats hissed when he passed. His family thought he just smelled wrong to animals. They joked about it. Maybe, he admitted, but nothing like this. Raina pulled up more data. Something on Terra's 9 triggered dormant genes. The environmental factors here activated something in your DNA that was sleeping. Activated what exactly? Daniel felt cold despite the warm lab. We do not know yet. Webb said, but every predatory species that encounters you has the same reaction. Instinctive fear. They recognize something in you, something that tells them to run. Brandon stood by the door. He had been quiet through the whole examination. Is he dangerous? No, Raina said firmly. Daniel has not changed behaviorally. He is not violent, not aggressive, but something in his genetics is broadcasting a signal that predators understand. An alarm blared through the station. Red lights flashed. Webb ran to the communication panel. Security breach on level 2, a voice crackled through speakers. Large creature inside the building, heading toward the genetics lab. Brandon pulled his weapon. Everyone behind me now. The door exploded inward. Metal shrieked. A creature forced its way through. It stood 8 feet tall, muscles like cables under thick hide, claws that could shred steel. A Grendix, an apex predator from the northern mountains. No one had ever seen one this close to the colony. The Grendix roared. The sound shook the walls. It fixed its eyes on Daniel. Then it stopped. The roar died. The creature's massive body trembled. It stared at Daniel with what could only be described as terror. Daniel stood up slowly. He did not think, did not plan, just moved forward. The Grendix backed away. A whimper escaped its throat. It turned and fled through the hole it made, vanished into the forest beyond the station. Everyone stared at Daniel. He looked at his hands. They were steady now. He felt calm, like some deep part of him understood what just happened even if his conscious mind did not. What am I becoming? He asked the silence. Quarantine felt like a cage made of glass. Daniel could see out, people could see in, but thick walls separated him from everyone else. Medical equipment beeped steadily in the corner. A camera watched his every move. They said it was for everyone's safety. He understood. That did not make it easier. Raina visited through the observation window. She held a data pad covered in genetic sequences. Her eyes looked tired. She had been working non-stop for 2 days. I found something, she said through the intercom. Her voice sounded flat and distant. Your DNA contains fragments that match extinct predator species, not from Earth, from dozens of different worlds. Daniel pressed his hand against the glass. How is that possible? I never left Earth until 6 months ago. That's what makes no sense. Raina pulled up images on her pad. She held them to the window. Daniel saw genetic markers highlighted in red. These are not transplanted, not engineered. They are expressing naturally, like your body is remembering something it should not know. Professor Webb appeared behind her. He carried files that looked older than the station itself. Physical paper. People rarely used that anymore. I need to tell you something, Webb said. His voice cracked. 20 years ago, I found ancient human DNA samples in archaeological sites across 3 continents. They showed markers similar to what you have now, but they were dormant, inactive. You knew this could happen? Daniel felt anger rising. You brought me here knowing. I theorized, Webb corrected. I had no proof. I thought the unique radiation signature of Terra's 9 might trigger dormant evolutionary traits. I requested you specifically because your genetic profile showed the highest probability of response. Raina turned on Webb. You used him as an experiment without consent. I gave humanity a chance to understand itself, Webb said quietly. Daniel, I am sorry, but what you are becoming could change everything we know about human evolution. An alert chimed on Raina's pad. She read the message and her face went white. Federation Ambassador Hrilthar just arrived. He wants to speak with you immediately. The ambassador was Chitara, insect-like species that thought in pure logic. Hrilthar had a body like a mantis covered in blue chitin, 4 eyes that never blinked, mandibles that clicked when he spoke. He studied Daniel through the quarantine glass. No fear showed on his face. Herbivore species did not react to Daniel the same way predators did. Another mystery. "I have reports from 3 sectors," Hrilthar said. His translator made his voice sound mechanical. "Predatory species fleeing from humans, incidents increasing over the past month. All humans involved show similar genetic markers to yours." "There are others," Daniel stood up. "How many?" 7 confirmed cases, possibly more. Hrilthar's antennae twitched. "The Federation Council is concerned. They want to know if humans are developing into a weapon." "I am not a weapon," Daniel said. "I am a biologist who cannot control what his genes are doing." "Control is the question." Hrilthar moved closer to the glass. "Can you suppress this effect? Can you turn it off?" "I do not even know how to turn it on." Daniel felt frustration building. "It just happens." Brandon entered the observation room. He nodded to the ambassador, then looked at Daniel. "Mind if I ask you something personal?" "Everything about me is personal right now," Daniel said. "Go ahead." "My grandmother lived in the Canadian wilderness," Brandon said. "Grizzly bears avoided her. Wolves watched from a distance but never approached. She thought it was just luck, but maybe it was something else. Maybe she had this too." Raina's eyes widened. "If this is genetic, it could run in families. We need to test your blood." "Later," Brandon waved her off. He kept his eyes on Daniel. "Point is, she lived 70 years with predators respecting her space. She was not dangerous, just different. You are not a monster, Daniel. You are just waking up to something your ancestors knew." A soft sound made everyone turn. A young Talrock stood at the observation room door. She was smaller than the merchant from the marketplace. Her fur was silver with black stripes. "My name is Syl," she said. Her accent made the words careful and precise. "I request permission to speak with the human." Hrilthar's mandibles clicked rapidly. "You are predatory species. This could be dangerous for you." "I know what I am." Syl walked to the window. She looked at Daniel directly. Her pupils were wide, not slits like the frightened merchant. "I want to understand. Fear is chemical reaction, instinct, but I have mind beyond instinct. I choose to override fear." Daniel moved to his side of the glass. "You are not scared." "I am terrified," Syl admitted. "Every part of my body screams to run, but you have done nothing to earn that fear, so I stay." Something in Daniel's chest loosened. For the first time since the Grendix incident, he felt less alone. Raina ran more tests. The results kept getting stranger. Daniel's DNA was not just changing. It was pulling information from somewhere. Genetic memory that should not exist. "Look at this sequence," she told Webb. She projected the data on the wall. "This matches hunting patterns of extinct Earth predators, dire wolves, saber-toothed cats, terror birds, species that went extinct thousands of years ago." "Humans hunted them," Webb said slowly. Understanding dawned on his face. "Early humans did not just compete with apex predators, they eliminated them. Drove them to extinction through superior tactics and cooperation. And somehow that information stored itself in human DNA," Raina finished. "Daniel is not developing into a predator. He is expressing the memory of the species that hunted predators." Daniel listened through the intercom. His hands trembled. "I remember things I should not know, hunting strategies, pack movements, how to read fear in eyes, but they are not my memories. They feel old, ancient." "Genetic memory," Webb said. "Passed down through generations, dormant until the right trigger activated it." Brandon received a message on his comm device. His expression darkened. "We have a problem. News about Daniel spread through the colony. Now people are panicking. They think humans are turning into monsters." "Worse," Hrilthar added. "Federation Council is debating mandatory genetic screening for all humans, possible quarantine protocols for your entire species." Daniel felt sick. "Because of me." "Because they do not understand," Syl said. She had stayed by the window. Her presence was small comfort but real. Fear makes people stupid. Fear makes them hurt things they should try to know. Alarms blared again. Different tone this time, medical emergency. Raina checked her pad. Her face went pale. Daniel, your genetic markers just spiked. The activity is increasing exponentially. Pain hit Daniel like lightning. He collapsed. His vision blurred. The room spun. He could hear voices shouting, but they sounded far away. Images flooded his mind. Ancient hunts. Humans with spears facing creatures 10 times their size, the smell of blood and fear. The knowledge that humanity climbed to the top by being willing to hunt anything, even the hunters themselves. His body convulsed. Genetic code rewrote itself in real time. Something was emerging, something that had slept for thousands of years. The last thing Daniel saw before darkness took him was Syl pressing her hand against the glass. Her eyes were wide with fear, but she did not run. She stayed. White light hurt Daniel's eyes. Medical equipment surrounded his bed. Tubes ran into his arms. Monitors tracked every heartbeat. He tried to sit up, but his body felt like it belonged to someone else. "Do not move too quickly," Raina said. She stood beside him with a scanner, her expression mixed relief with concern. "You have been unconscious for 18 hours. Your genetic activity went completely wild." Professor Webb appeared on his other side. The old man looked like he had not slept. "How do you feel?" "Strange," Daniel's voice came out rough. "I remember things that never happened to me, hunting in snow with nothing but sharp rocks, tracking wounded prey for days, the taste of raw meat when winter left nothing else to eat." "Genetic memory," Webb said. "Your DNA is not just changing. It is unlocking information stored in human genetics for thousands of years, memories from your ancestors." Dr. Ling Patterson entered the room. She was human, tall woman with gray hair pulled back tight. She worked for the Federation as an evolutionary biology specialist. Daniel had read her papers back on Earth. "Mr. Cross," she said. Her voice was professional and detached. "I need to ask you questions about what you experienced. The Federation requires detailed records." Daniel nodded. His head felt clearer now. The memories still swirled, but they felt less overwhelming. "What do you want to know?" "You said you remember hunting strategies. Can you describe them?" Images filled Daniel's mind. Not vague feelings, but clear knowledge. "Humans did not just hunt prey. We hunted predators. When a pack of wolves threatened our food sources, we tracked them to their den. When cave bears took our shelters, we drove them out with fire and spears. We eliminated competition." Patterson typed rapidly on her data pad. "Every other species in the galaxy evolved as either predator or prey. Predators developed from predatory ancestors, prey from prey ancestors. But humans are different." "How?" Raina asked. "Humans evolved from prey species," Patterson explained. "Early primates were hunted by everything. But instead of developing better escape abilities like normal prey species, humans learned to fight back. Eventually, they became the hunters, the only species in galactic record to make that transition." Webb pulled up images on the wall screen. Ancient Earth animals, dire wolves, cave bears, saber-toothed cats, giant short-faced bears. These predators ruled Earth for millions of years. Then humans appeared. Within a few thousand years, they were all extinct. "We killed them all," Daniel said quietly. The knowledge sat heavy in his chest. "Not for food, for territory, for safety, for dominance. We hunted the hunters until none remained." Syl stood at the doorway. She had been there the whole time, apparently, quiet and watchful. "My people have legends," she said. "Old stories about the prey that became death. We thought they were just tales to frighten children, warnings about underestimating weaker species." "They were warnings about humans," Patterson said. "Your instincts recognize what Daniel represents. The species that started at the bottom of the food chain and climbed to the top by destroying everything above them." Brandon leaned against the wall. He had stayed close since Daniel collapsed. "So predators fear Daniel because their instincts remember what humans did to Earth's predators." "Not remember exactly," Patterson gestured to Daniel. His genetics are broadcasting a signal, chemical markers that predatory species recognize on a primal level. It triggers their survival instinct, the part that says some prey is not worth hunting. Daniel swung his legs off the bed. The tubes pulled, but he ignored them. Other humans are developing this too. What happens to them? 7 confirmed cases became 19 overnight, Patterson said. More reports coming in daily. All humans showing varying degrees of genetic activation. The Federation is debating how to handle this. Handle us like what? Daniel felt anger rising. Like weapons, like threats. Like an unknown factor, Patterson said bluntly. Predatory species make up 40% of Federation membership. If all humans develop this trait, it could destabilize the entire political structure. A chime sounded. Webb checked the notification and his face went serious. We have visitors. Multiple ships just entered orbit. They are not Federation. Security screens showed vessels unlike anything Daniel had seen. Black hulls with designs that looked organic, ships built for hunting in deep space. No running lights, no friendly identification signals. Brandon's hand moved to his weapon. Who are they? The comm system crackled. A voice spoke in a language the translators struggled with. After a moment, words formed. We are V. Rykar. We come to speak with a human called Daniel Cross. Everyone looked at Daniel. He stood up despite Reyna's protest. Let them dock. I want to know why predators from outside Federation space care about me. The V. Rykar delegation entered the station an hour later. They were massive. Reptilian bodies covered in scales that shifted colors, eyes that tracked movement with predatory precision. Claws that could rend steel. They moved like coiled violence barely contained. Their leader stood 7 feet tall. Scars covered his body. A lifetime of fighting marked into his flesh. I am Huntmaster Draven, he said. His voice rumbled like distant thunder. We have traveled far to see the one who awakens the old fear. Why? Daniel asked. He stood his ground despite every instinct screaming to back away. Why does it matter to you? Draven's eyes fixed on Daniel. Fear flickered across his face, ancient and primal, but he did not retreat. Because we know what you are, what your kind represents. The galaxy has forgotten, but we remember. Remember what? Webb demanded. Draven pulled up a holographic display. Images appeared. Ancient ruins on worlds the Federation had never catalogued. Bones of creatures that dwarfed even the V. Rykar. Evidence of civilizations that rose and fell long before current species developed space travel. There were predators before us, Draven said. Apex species that hunted across the stars. They ruled the galaxy for millions of years. They are extinct now. We found their remains on 100 dead worlds. We studied them, tried to understand how species that powerful could vanish. He zoomed in on one image, markings on ancient stone, symbols that looked eerily familiar, human-like figures with spears surrounding larger creatures. We found the answer in ruins on a world your people call Earth. Your ancestors did not just hunt predators on one planet. They hunted them everywhere they went. Species that could cross the stars fell to humans with primitive weapons and superior tactics. Silence filled the room. Daniel felt the weight of that history settling on his shoulders. You are saying humans drove galactic predators extinct? Not all humans, Draven corrected. Ancient humans, a subspecies that spread across the galaxy long before your current civilization. They eliminated every major predator they encountered. Then they vanished themselves. We thought your species died out completely, but you survived on Earth. You forgot what you were, but your genetics remember. Patterson's hands shook as she took notes. This rewrites everything we know about human history, ancient human civilizations that achieved space travel and collapsed. Your species rose before, Draven said. They fell to war among themselves after eliminating external threats, but the fear they created lived on, genetic memory in every predator species, recognition of the prey that hunts hunters. Now that fear awakens again because you awaken again. Daniel looked at his hands. They looked normal, just human hands, but the genetic markers told a different story. I do not want to be feared, I do not want to hurt anyone. That is not for you to decide. Draven's tone softened slightly. The instinct exists beyond choice, but perhaps that is better. Your ancient ancestors were ruthless. They killed without mercy. You have mercy. That makes you dangerous in a different way. Reyna stepped forward. What do you want from Daniel? Understanding, Draven said. The Virikar respect strength. We respect the hunt. But we also respect truth. If humans are returning to what they were, we must know. We must decide if we face you as enemies or allies. Daniel met the Huntmaster's eyes. Fear reflected back at him, but also something else. Respect maybe, recognition between apex predators who understood each other. I choose allies, Daniel said. I do not know what I am becoming, but I know who I want to be, someone who protects, not someone who destroys. Draven studied him for a long moment. Then he dipped his head, a gesture of acknowledgement. Then we will watch, and we will remember, both what you were and what you choose to be. 2 weeks passed in a blur of tests and debates. Daniel remained at Haven Ridge, but no longer in quarantine. The Federation Council argued daily about what to do with humans showing genetic activation. Some wanted isolation, others wanted study, a few wanted elimination. Daniel stood on the observation deck watching ships come and go. Transport vessels brought more affected humans to the station. Scientists arrived from a dozen worlds. Reporters clustered at the gates demanding answers. The quiet research outpost became the center of galactic attention. You should eat something, Syl said. She approached quietly, but Daniel heard her. His senses had sharpened along with the genetic changes. He could hear heartbeats from across the room now, smell fear like a physical presence. I am not hungry. Daniel did not turn from the window. How do you do it? Stay near me when your instincts scream to run. Practice. Syl stood beside him, close enough that her fur almost brushed his arm. Every day I override the fear, every day it gets slightly easier. You are still you, Daniel. The genetics do not change that. Footsteps announced Brandon's arrival. The security chief carried data pads and looked exhausted. Federation Council wants you to testify. They are holding an emergency session about human genetic status. You are the primary case study. When? Daniel asked. Tomorrow, via hologram. They do not want you traveling to Federation space yet. Too many predator species representatives. They worry about panic. Daniel finally turned from the window. And if I refuse? They make decisions about humanity without human input, Brandon said bluntly. Better to speak for yourself than let others speak for you. Reyna burst into the room. Her excitement was visible. I figured it out. The genetic markers are not random mutation. They are activation codes, like a program waiting to run. She pulled up holographic displays showing complex genetic sequences. Ancient humans deliberately encoded this information into their DNA. They knew they would forget their history, so they hid it where it could not be lost, in the very blueprint of human biology. Professor Webb followed her in. He looked energized despite his age. This is brilliant. A genetic time capsule, information passed down through every generation waiting for the right environmental trigger. Terra's 9 provided that trigger, Reyna continued. The unique radiation here activated dormant sequences, but now we understand the mechanism. We can potentially control it. Daniel felt hope flare. Control how? The markers respond to biochemical signals, stress hormones, adrenaline, fear responses. Reyna's hands moved rapidly across the display. When you feel threatened, the markers amplify. When you are calm, they diminish. You have been unconsciously projecting this effect based on emotional state. So I can turn it off? Daniel asked. Maybe, Webb cautioned. The process is not simple, but with training you might learn to suppress or enhance the signal deliberately, conscious control instead of instinctive response. Dr. Patterson joined them. She had been working with the newly arrived humans. 19 test subjects show the same pattern, varying degrees of activation, but all respond to emotional regulation. Those who practice meditation and stress control show weaker predator fear responses. Brandon crossed his arms. This needs to be part of the testimony tomorrow. If humans can control this, it changes the entire conversation. The next day, Daniel stood in the communication chamber. Holographic projectors surrounded him. When activated, they would transmit his image to the Federation Council chamber on Unity Station. Hundreds of representatives from dozens of species would see and hear him. Reyna adjusted the equipment. Remember to breathe, stay calm. Your genetic markers will be monitored throughout the testimony. Show them you have control. The projection activated. Daniel's view shifted. He now stood in the center of a massive chamber. Tiered seats rose in all directions. Representatives filled every space. He recognized some species. Others were completely alien. Ambassador Hrilthar served as moderator. His mechanical voice echoed through the chamber. This council recognizes Daniel Cross of Earth. You may speak. Daniel took a breath. Thank you. I know my genetic condition frightens many of you. It frightens me too. I did not ask for this. Did not choose to become something that triggers fear in predatory species. A Talrock representative stood. His fur was gray with age. You say you did not choose, but your genetics suggest humans were designed to hunt predators. How do we trust a species built to destroy ours? We are not built to destroy, Daniel said. He kept his voice steady. We are built to survive. Ancient humans faced predators that could kill them easily. They adapted. They learned. They became strong enough to defend themselves. That is not the same as being monsters. A Vrykar representative rose, younger than Draven but no less intimidating. Your ancestors drove galactic predators to extinction. The evidence is clear. How do we know you will not do the same? Because we have choice, Daniel said. My ancestors made decisions I would not make. They killed out of fear and competition, but I am not them. I have their genetics, but not their circumstances. I choose to use this ability to protect, not to destroy. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some species looked skeptical, others thoughtful. A few predator representatives looked openly hostile. A herbivore representative spoke, a being that looked like a walking tree with multiple limbs. Your condition does not affect non-predatory species. We do not fear you. Perhaps this is a gift, not a curse. A way to balance the predator species that dominate Federation politics and military. That caused an uproar. Predator representatives shouted objections. Herbivore representatives demanded to be heard. The chamber descended into chaos. Hrilthar's mandibles clicked loudly. Order! This council will maintain order. Daniel waited for silence. His heart pounded, but he focused on staying calm. Reyna had shown him the biometric readings. When he panicked, the genetic markers flared. When he centered himself, they stabilized. May I demonstrate something? Daniel asked. Hrilthar conferred with other moderators. Proceed. Daniel closed his eyes. He focused on the breathing techniques Reyna taught him, slowed his heart rate, relaxed his muscles, let the fear and stress drain away. The genetic markers were part of him, but they did not control him. He controlled them. When he opened his eyes, something had changed. Several predator representatives looked less tense. The Talrock elder tilted his head. I feel different. The fear is still present but muted. What did you do? I suppressed the signal, Daniel said. The genetic markers respond to my emotional state. When I am calm, they project less intensely. I am learning control. All affected humans can learn this. Patterson's voice came through his earpiece. Your markers dropped 40%. This is working. A new representative stood. Daniel did not recognize the species, aquatic-looking with gill slits and webbed limbs. If humans can control this ability, they could use it as a weapon, turn it on and off to manipulate predator species. We could, Daniel admitted. Just like any species could weaponize their natural abilities. Vrykar could use their strength to dominate weaker species. Chitara could use their intelligence to exploit others, but most beings choose not to. We are more than our genetics. We are our choices. Huntmaster Draven stood in the gallery. He had been observing silently, now he spoke. The human speaks truth. The Virikar encountered ancient humans. They were ruthless hunters, but they also showed honor. They protected weak species from stronger predators. They maintained balance in ecosystems. Perhaps modern humans inherit that wisdom along with the hunting instinct. The Talrock elder nodded slowly. My people have stories, old legends about humans who saved Talrock colonists from extinction-level predators. We thought they were myths. Maybe they were memories. Hrilthar's antennae twitched. This council must decide, do we classify human genetic activation as a threat or as a natural evolutionary process? Debates continued for hours. Daniel stood through all of it, answered questions, demonstrated his control repeatedly, showed that humans with this condition were not mindless weapons but conscious beings making choices. Finally, a vote was called. The results appeared on holographic displays, not unanimous but clear. Human genetic activation would be classified as evolutionary adaptation, not threat. Affected humans would receive support and training. No mandatory quarantine, no species-wide restrictions. Daniel felt tension drain from his body. Sill's voice came through his comm. You did it, they listened. After the testimony ended, Daniel returned to Haven Ridge. Other affected humans gathered around him, 19 people from different colonies, different backgrounds, all sharing this strange genetic awakening. What do we do now? A young woman named Kira asked. She showed moderate genetic activation. Predators avoided her but did not flee in terror. We learn, Daniel said. We practice control. We figure out what this means for us and for humanity together. Brandon brought news later that evening. Federation is establishing a research center here. They want Haven Ridge to become the primary facility for studying human genetic evolution. You would be lead consultant if you accept. Daniel looked out at Terra's 9 sunset, the world that triggered his transformation. I accept, but on one condition: we include predator species in the research. Virikar, Talrock, others. They deserve to understand this too. We face it together or not at all. Sill appeared beside him. She no longer hesitated before approaching. That is wise. Fear comes from ignorance. Knowledge brings understanding. And maybe friendship, Daniel added. He smiled at her. She smiled back, 2 predators from different species learning to exist without fear between them. 3 months transformed Haven Ridge beyond recognition. The small research station expanded into a full facility. New buildings rose from cleared forest. Scientists from across the Federation arrived daily. Predator and prey species worked side by side studying the human genetic phenomenon. Daniel stood in the training center watching affected humans practice control exercises. 27 now. More arrived each week as genetic activation spread through human populations. They learned meditation techniques, emotional regulation, how to suppress or amplify the predator fear response deliberately. Kira demonstrated for a group of Talrock observers. She faced a trained predator animal in a controlled environment. The creature snarled and advanced. Kira breathed slowly and the animal stopped. Confused but no longer aggressive, she had turned the fear response off completely. Remarkable, one Talrock scientist said. His name was Thorol. He overcame his instinctive fear months ago to work directly with affected humans. She shows complete conscious control. This level of mastery took her how long? 6 weeks of daily practice, Daniel answered. Some learn faster than others. Emotional discipline is key. Brandon entered with a visitor. A Virikar female Daniel had not met. She wore armor marked with scientific insignia rather than military. Her scales shifted through shades of green and blue, a sign of curiosity in her species. This is Research Commander Silrix, Brandon introduced. She leads the Virikar scientific delegation, has a proposal for you. Silrix studied Daniel with keen intelligence. Fear flickered in her eyes, but she controlled it well. Huntmaster Draven believes your abilities have practical applications beyond research. He sent me to discuss possibilities. What kind of applications? Daniel asked carefully. Protection, Silrix pulled up holographic data. Images showed ecological disaster zones, poaching operations, illegal hunting of endangered species. The Virikar home system suffers from predator overhunting. Rare species face extinction. Traditional protection methods fail because poachers are also predators. They cannot be intimidated by force alone. Daniel understood immediately. You want affected humans to serve as deterrents. Not serve, Silrix corrected. Partner, work with Virikar conservation teams. Your presence would make poachers hesitate. Give endangered species time to recover. We would pay fairly and provide full support. Reyna joined the conversation. She had been monitoring from her lab. This could work. Controlled application of the fear response for conservation purposes, ethical use of a natural ability. It is still using fear as a weapon, Daniel said. He felt uncomfortable with the idea. Making beings afraid to manipulate their behavior. You make predators respect boundaries, Sil countered. She had been listening from across the room. There is difference between terror and respect. You can project one without the other if you learn precision. Professor Webb appeared with Dr. Patterson. They had been analyzing long-term data. We need to discuss something important. The genetic activation is not stopping. More humans develop markers daily. At current rates, 10% of humanity will show some level of activation within 5 years. That is millions of people, Brandon said. The Federation cannot handle that scale of change easily. Patterson nodded. We need to get ahead of this, establish training protocols, create support systems, help newly activated humans adapt before fear and confusion cause problems. And we need positive examples, Daniel said slowly, understanding formed. Show the galaxy that this ability has value beyond causing fear. Conservation work could do that. Silrix's scales brightened with hope. Then you will consider the proposal. Let me talk to the others. Daniel looked at the training humans. This affects all of us. We decide together. That evening, Daniel gathered all 27 affected humans in the common room. Ages ranged from 19 to 62. Backgrounds varied from farmers to engineers to artists. The genetic activation did not discriminate. The Virikar offered us work, Daniel explained. He laid out Silrix's proposal completely. Conservation protection using our abilities to deter poachers and illegal hunters. It is voluntary, no pressure to accept. A middle-aged man named Omar spoke first. I spent my whole life being afraid of things. Now things are afraid of me. Using that to protect endangered species sounds like turning a curse into something good. I agree, Kira said. But we need rules, guidelines. We cannot just make every predator afraid everywhere. That would be cruel. Precision application, Reyna suggested. Target only those actively harming protected species. Leave normal predators alone. The discussion continued for hours. Questions about ethics, concerns about being used as weapons, hopes about finding purpose in their transformation. Finally, they voted. 23 agreed to try, 4 preferred to focus on research. Everyone respected both choices. Daniel met with Silrix the next day. We will help, but under specific conditions. We operate as partners, not tools. We decide when and where to use our abilities. We refuse any mission that feels wrong. Agreed, Silrix's scales showed satisfaction. The Virikar respect strength and honor. Your terms demonstrate both. The first conservation mission launched 2 weeks later. Daniel led a team of 5 affected humans to a Virikar colony world. The planet hosted rare crystal-winged birds, creatures that could not exist anywhere else. Poachers had reduced their population to critical levels. The team arrived at the conservation zone with Virikar rangers. The rangers were professional, but Daniel felt their underlying fear. Years of training helped them function despite instinct. Poachers use stealth technology, Ranger Commander Vex explained. She pointed to dense forest. They hide from our sensors, take eggs and young birds. We cannot catch them before they escape. They cannot hide from us, Omar said quietly. We do not need sensors, we feel predators nearby, like static on skin. The team spread through the forest. Daniel taught them to focus, listen to their enhanced senses. The genetic markers did more than cause fear, they sharpened awareness, made humans hypersensitive to predatory presence. Daniel felt them first, 3 poachers hiding in the canopy. Their heartbeats stood out like drums. Fear scent marked their location precisely. He signaled the others. They converged silently. The poachers never saw them coming. Daniel stepped into view and released the fear response deliberately. Not full strength, just enough. The poachers froze. Weapons fell from shaking hands. They stared at Daniel like death itself had appeared. "Leave," Daniel said simply. "Never come back." They ran, left their equipment, their stolen eggs, fled into the forest like prey escaping apex predators. Vrykar Rangers collected the evidence and rescued the eggs. Vex watched with amazement. "We have chased these poachers for months. You stopped them in minutes." "Fear is efficient," Daniel admitted, "but I do not enjoy using it." "You saved lives today," Vex said firmly. "Crystal-wing birds will survive because of you. That matters more than your comfort." Over the following weeks, the team protected 3 different endangered species. Poaching incidents dropped 90% in zones where affected humans operated. Word spread through criminal networks. Protected areas became too dangerous to approach. But success brought complications. Some Federation species accused humans of becoming Galactic police, using fear to control behavior. Even beneficial control made them uncomfortable. Daniel addressed concerns in a live broadcast to Federation worlds. "We are not police. We do not enforce laws. We protect species that cannot protect themselves. Any being who respects life and law has nothing to fear from us. Only those who harm the helpless need to worry." Syl stood beside him during the broadcast, a predator species supporting human conservation efforts. Her presence sent a powerful message. "The Talrock support this work," she said. "Humans use their abilities with wisdom. They could terrorize, but they choose to protect. That is the difference between power and abuse of power." Huntmaster Draven added his voice. "The Vrykar encountered ancient humans who destroyed predators without mercy. These modern humans are different. They have the same strength but greater wisdom. We trust them because they have earned that trust through actions." Public opinion shifted slowly. Fear remained. Understanding grew alongside it. Predator species began to see affected humans as potential allies rather than threats. Herbivore species appreciated the balance humans provided. New applications emerged. A mining colony requested human assistance with aggressive wildlife threatening workers. A shipping company wanted protection from pirates in dangerous space lanes. Medical teams asked for help entering plague zones where infected predators attacked caregivers. Daniel established strict guidelines: only protection missions, no military applications, no forcing fear for political purposes. Affected humans would help but never harm unless absolutely necessary for defense. The transformation from feared anomaly to valued protector took 6 months. Haven Ridge became the center for training newly activated humans, teaching control, demonstrating ethical use of abilities, showing the galaxy that humans chose compassion over domination. Daniel stood on the observation deck one evening. Ships came and went constantly now, bringing new students, delivering research data, carrying affected humans to conservation missions across Federation space. Syl joined him. She no longer hesitated at all. Her fear response to Daniel had diminished through exposure and friendship. "You changed everything," she said. 3 months ago, predators fled from you. Now they seek your help." "We changed it together," Daniel corrected. "You taught me that fear and respect are different things, that bridges can exist between predator and prey if both sides choose to build them." "What happens next?" Syl asked. Daniel thought about Patterson's projections. Millions of humans developing genetic activation, a fundamental shift in human biology and galactic politics. "We keep teaching, keep protecting, Keep proving that humanity deserves trust. And if some humans misuse these abilities, Syl asked quietly, if some choose domination over protection, then we stop them, Daniel said. Affected humans understand this power better than anyone. We take responsibility for those who share our condition. We police ourselves before others feel the need to police us. Brandon approached with urgent news. We have a situation. An unidentified vessel entered Terra's 9 orbit. They are hailing specifically for you, Daniel. They say they have information about ancient human civilizations. Information that will change everything you think you know about your species. Daniel and Syl exchanged looks. The mystery of ancient humans still had secrets, secrets that someone apparently wanted to share. The vessel looked old, not damaged or deteriorating, just ancient. Hull plating from an era before modern alloys, design principles that predated current engineering standards. It hung in orbit like a ghost from history made solid. Daniel stood in the communication center with Syl, Brandon, Reyna, and Professor Webb. The visitor had sent specific coordinates for a meeting, an abandoned archaeological site 50 miles from Haven Ridge, human ruins that predated modern civilization by thousands of years. Could be a trap, Brandon said. His security instincts never slept. Unknown vessel, isolated location, everything says danger. Everything about human genetic activation said danger, Daniel countered. We investigated anyway. This could provide answers we need. The team traveled by transport to the ruins. Ancient stone structures rose from overgrown jungle. Carvings covered every surface. Symbols that matched the ones Draven had shown. Proof that humans achieved space travel long before current civilization. A figure waited among the pillars, not human, not any species Daniel recognized, bipedal but covered in crystalline structures, eyes that glowed with internal light, ancient beyond measure. I am Archive, the being said, its voice resonated like crystal singing. I am memory, I am witness. I have waited 5,000 years for humans to awaken again. Awaken to what? Webb asked. His scientific curiosity overcame fear. To what you were, what you can be again. Archive gestured to the ruins. These stones tell your story, the story your species forgot when it nearly destroyed itself. Holographic images appeared. Ancient humans spreading across the galaxy, cities on 100 worlds, technology that rivaled modern Federation capabilities, but something was wrong. The humans in the images looked different, harder, more aggressive. Your ancestors were apex predators, Archive continued. They eliminated every major threat in their territory, protected weaker species, maintained order through strength. For 2,000 years, they ruled not through tyranny, but through the fear they inspired in those who would do harm. What happened? Reyna asked. She recorded everything frantically. They forgot why they hunted. Archive's light dimmed. Began to hunt for sport, for dominance, for entertainment. They turned on each other when external threats vanished. Civil war consumed their civilization. 90% of the human population died in 3 generations of conflict. The images showed devastation. Worlds burning, cities reduced to ash, humans hunting humans with the same ruthlessness they once used against predators. Survivors retreated to Earth, Archive said, sealed away their technology, suppressed their genetic enhancements, chose to forget rather than risk repeating history. They encoded their knowledge in DNA, a warning and a gift, so future humans could choose what to become. Daniel felt the weight of that history. You waited 5,000 years to tell us this. I waited for humans to activate their genetics naturally, Archive corrected, to prove they were ready to remember without repeating past mistakes. You did not weaponize immediately, did not conquer. You chose protection over domination. That is why I came. Why does it matter now? Syl asked. Archive turned its glowing eyes to her. Because the threats your ancestors faced are returning, deep space predators more dangerous than Vrykar, species that view entire civilizations as prey. They come in cycles measured in millennia. They are coming again. Horror spread through the group. Brandon immediately thought tactically. When, how long do we have? 5 years, perhaps 10. Archives showed images of creatures that made the Grendix look harmless. Beings evolved for violence on a scale that defied comprehension. They sleep between feeding cycles. They wake when galactic populations reach critical density. They are waking now. The Federation needs to know, Webb said urgently. The Federation cannot stop them, Archive stated flatly. Predator species will flee. Prey species will be consumed. Only humans have the genetic memory of fighting such threats. Only humans hunted the hunters of hunters. Daniel's mind raced. You want us to become what our ancestors were, galactic protectors through fear and strength. I want you to choose, Archive said. Your ancestors had no choice. They evolved in response to threats. You have choice. You can activate your full genetic potential deliberately, become what is needed. Or you can hide again and hope the Federation survives without you. Full activation, Reyna's voice shook. What does that mean? The markers you show now are partial expression, Archive explained. Surface level. True activation would enhance strength, speed, awareness, healing, would allow conscious control over fear projection, would make each human equivalent to apex predators in capability while retaining human intelligence and compassion. It sounds too good to be true, Brandon said suspiciously. What is the cost? Irreversibility, Archive said simply. Once fully activated, the genetics cannot be suppressed again. You become permanently other, still human in mind but different in body. Your descendants inherit the activation. Humanity splits into two subspecies, those who chose enhancement and those who did not. Silence fell over the ruins. The choice Archive offered was enormous. Transform humanity to face an existential threat, or remain as they were and hope for the best. Can you prove these threats exist? Daniel asked. Show us evidence beyond your word. Archive touched the ancient stones. Technology hummed to life. Displays showed long-range sensor data, deep space anomalies, movement patterns of massive objects beyond Federation scanning range. Something vast stirred in the dark between stars. Federation scientists will detect these signals within 3 years, Archive said. By then it will be too late to prepare adequately. You must choose now if you want time to adapt. Daniel looked at his companions. Syl met his eyes. I cannot make this choice for you, but I will stand with you whatever you decide. Reyna checked her data frantically. The genetic sequencing matches. Full activation would require controlled exposure to specific radiation combined with biochemical treatments. We could do it safely, but Archive is right. There would be no going back. How many humans would need to activate? Brandon asked. Unknown, Archive admitted. Your ancestors numbered billions, but they had primitive weapons. Modern humans have Federation technology. Perhaps thousands of fully activated humans would suffice if properly trained and equipped. Daniel walked among the ruins. His ancestors stood here 5,000 years ago, made choices that shaped human destiny. Now that responsibility fell to him, to all affected humans. We need to present this to the Federation Council, he decided. Let them see the evidence, then offer a choice to humanity. Anyone who wants full activation can choose it. Anyone who prefers to remain unchanged can do so. We don't force this on anyone. Archive's light brightened. Wisdom, your ancestors lacked that quality. Perhaps you truly are different. The next weeks were chaos. Archive shared all its evidence with Federation scientists. They confirmed the deep space threats. Panic spread through some sectors. Others dismissed it as paranoid speculation. The Federation Council debated endlessly about appropriate response. Daniel testified again, this time not defending human genetics but explaining the choice ahead. We can become protectors, activate our full genetic potential and prepare to face threats the Federation cannot handle alone. But we will not force this on anyone. Every human chooses individually. The vote was not about whether to allow it. Archive made clear the threats came regardless of Federation approval. The vote was about support. Would the Federation help humans who chose activation or leave them to manage alone? The result was close but positive. The Federation would provide resources and support. In exchange, activated humans would serve as first response to the deep space threats, a partnership built on mutual survival. Daniel returned to Haven Ridge to find thousands of humans waiting. News spread across human colonies. Many wanted activation immediately, others hesitated. Families divided over the choice. Arguments erupted about changing human nature versus preserving it. Syl helped establish order. "Everyone gets time to decide," she announced. "No rush, no pressure. This choice shapes your entire future. Make it carefully." Over 6 months, 3,000 humans chose full activation. Daniel was among the first. The process took weeks. Controlled radiation exposure, biochemical treatments, genetic therapy that rewrote his DNA completely. The changes were profound. Daniel emerged stronger, faster, more aware. His senses sharpened to inhuman levels. He could project the fear response with surgical precision or suppress it entirely. But his mind remained unchanged, his compassion intact, his humanity preserved despite the transformation. Reyna studied the activated humans extensively. "You are still human," she confirmed. "Just human plus. Enhanced but not replaced. Your children will inherit these traits. In a few generations, humanity will include 2 distinct varieties, but both will still be human." Training began immediately. 3,000 activated humans learning to use their new capabilities, working with Federation military advisors, preparing for threats that might arrive in years or decades, building defenses across vulnerable worlds. Daniel led by example, demonstrated that power did not require cruelty, that strength could be gentle, that the ability to inspire fear was different from the desire to use it. Activated humans became protectors, not conquerors, teachers, not tyrants. A year after activation, the first deep space threat appeared. Not the massive predators Archive warned about, something smaller but still dangerous. A scouting vessel from a species that viewed inhabited worlds as food sources. Daniel's team intercepted them at the edge of Federation space. The encounter lasted minutes. The alien predators felt human presence and fled without engagement. Their fear response to activated humans exceeded even Archive's predictions. "They remember you," Archive explained when Daniel reported the encounter. "Genetic memory spans species. Predators across the galaxy carry warnings about humans, the prey that became death, the species that hunts the hunters." "Good," Brandon said firmly. He had chosen activation and served as Daniel's second in command. "Let them remember. Let them fear. Let them understand that this galaxy has protectors who will not tolerate their predation." But Daniel worried about becoming what his ancestors were. "We use fear as a tool, not a weapon, deter threats without destroying them when possible. We are not exterminators, we are guardians." Syl had undergone her own changes, not genetic activation, but evolution through choice. She represented a growing movement among predator species, learning to overcome instinctive fear through exposure and friendship, building bridges between activated humans and the species who once fled from them. "You changed the galaxy," she told Daniel on the anniversary of his activation. They stood in the memorial garden at Haven Ridge. Stones bore the names of humans who died in the ancient Civil War, a reminder of what to avoid. "We changed it together," Daniel said, the same words as before, still true. "Humans provided strength, other species provided wisdom, neither could succeed alone." "What happens when the real threats arrive?" Syl asked. "The ones Archive warned about." Daniel looked up at the stars. Somewhere in that darkness, ancient predators stirred, beings that made the Grendix look harmless, creatures that once drove humanity to the edge of extinction. "We face them, not as conquerors, not as victims, but as protectors who remember both prey and predator perspectives." "And if we fail?" "Then we fail protecting others," Daniel said. "That is better than failing ourselves." 5 years passed. More humans chose activation. The number reached 10,000. Training facilities spread across Federation space. Partnerships formed between activated humans and every major species. Even the Vrykar requested human advisors for their conservation programs. The deep space threats arrived in the 6th year, massive predators emerging from dark space, exactly as Archive predicted. The Federation prepared but knew they faced extinction-level threats. Daniel stood on the bridge of a Federation warship with his team, 300 activated humans serving as first contact specialists. Syl stood beside him. She had become ambassador between species, voice for those who feared humans and those who trusted them. "Whatever happens next," Daniel said to his team, "remember what we chose to be, not weapons, not monsters. Protectors who understand fear because we inspire it but choose compassion because we are human." The massive predators approached Federation space. Scans showed creatures evolved for violence, biology designed for hunting civilizations. They came because galactic population density triggered their feeding instinct. But they stopped at the border. Massive beings that should fear nothing showed hesitation. Their sensors detected activated humans scattered across defended worlds, genetic markers broadcasting a simple message: this territory is protected. These people are guarded. The prey that hunts hunters stands here. The predators circled for weeks, tested defenses, encountered activated humans each time, felt the ancient fear that their ancestors encoded in their DNA. Finally, they withdrew, returned to dark space without engaging. "They remembered," Archive said when Daniel reported the victory. "Just as I predicted, the threats will return in future cycles, but now the galaxy knows it has defenders." Daniel stood in the memorial garden again, new stones added, names of humans who chose activation and dedicated their lives to protection, heroes who used fear as a shield rather than a sword. Syl joined him as always. "What comes next for you?" "Training," Daniel said. "Teaching, showing new activated humans how to be strong without being cruel, powerful without being destructive. We have thousands of years to prepare for the next cycle. We will use that time wisely." "And personally," Syl pressed, "what do you want beyond duty?" Daniel looked at her, the Talrock who overcame every instinct to stand beside humanity's most feared, who taught him that fear and friendship could coexist. "I want to keep building bridges between species, between humans who chose activation and those who did not, between power and wisdom." "A worthy goal," Syl said. Her hand found his. Different species, different biology, but genuine affection existed despite the differences. "We will build those bridges together." Daniel smiled. His genetics defied science. His presence made predators fear. But his choices defined him more than his biology. He chose protection over domination, wisdom over strength alone, compassion despite capability for violence. Humanity found its place in the galaxy, not as conquerors, not as victims, but as the species that evolved from prey to hunter and chose to become protectors. The people who understood both perspectives and used that understanding to build rather than destroy. The galaxy learned that the prey that became death could also become hope, that the humans who inspired fear could inspire trust, that genetic. Destiny mattered less than conscious choice. Daniel Cross walked among the memorial stones, no longer the confused biologist whose genetics awakened, now a guardian who helped shape humanity's future. His DNA carried the memory of ancient hunters. His heart carried the compassion of those who chose a better path. The prey that hunted predators became the protectors who saved both. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy, and Daniel would spend his enhanced lifetime ensuring that gift was never forgotten.